At exactly 0347 hours, 22 nautical miles off the coast of Bandar Abbas, an Iranian Kilo-class submarine made a decision that would last exactly 11 minutes and 43 seconds. Torpedo in the water. A single Type 53-65 KE Wakecombing torpedo, powered by hydrogen peroxide propellant, accelerated to 45 knots through the darkness of the Strait of Hormuz. The target sat in the pre-dawn calm. The USS Abraham Lincoln, 100,000 tons of nuclear-powered American diplomacy, $13 billion floating in international waters with a crew of 5,000 sailors. To the Iranian submarine commander 180 feet below the surface, it looked like a tactical masterstroke. A message in steel and explosives demonstrating Iran could challenge American naval supremacy. What he didn't know was that his submarine had been tracked for 96 hours by acoustic sensors so sensitive they could hear a wrench drop at 40 miles. The message had already been intercepted and countered before his torpedo left the tube. The Type 53-65 KE torpedo tells its own story, written in Soviet blueprints from the 1960s and Iranian reverse engineering. Designed when Kennedy was president, this weapon represents fighting modern naval war with yesterday's technology. The torpedo weighs 2,200 kilograms and carries a 400-kilogram high-explosive warhead, powerful enough to crack a destroyer's hull. The torpedo uses wakecombing guidance, tracking disturbed water behind a ship's propellers. It's a passive system that doesn't emit signals. Hydrogen peroxide propulsion gives it high speed without a telltale bubble trail. Maximum range, 19 kilometers. Maximum depth, 400 meters. These specs look impressive on paper. But here's the reality that Soviet engineers knew and Iranian commanders forgot. Wakecombing torpedoes were designed to attack merchant convoys moving in straight lines at predictable speeds. Against an American carrier strike group with acoustic sensors covering 50,000 square miles and tactical doctrine written specifically to counter this threat, it's like trying to sneak up on someone who's been watching you approach for 4 days. The technological gap isn't measured in years. It's measured in entire generations of naval warfare. The Lincoln's AN/SQQ-89 integrated combat system processes acoustic data from sensors scattered across hundreds of miles. The system can track dozens of submarines simultaneously, classify them by acoustic signature, and predict their position minutes into the future. The Iranian submarine, for all its stealth, was making noise. The Lincoln knew exactly where it was. Desperate regimes don't calculate probability rationally. Iran faces international isolation, strangling its economy and domestic pressure, threatening regime survival. A carrier strike group in waters Iran considers its backyard looks like provocation and opportunity to demonstrate strength. Desperation follows terrible logic. Fire the torpedo. Force America to react. Claim victory regardless of outcome. The submarine commander had orders from Tehran, far from the consequences. The Strait of Hormuz is the most monitored ocean on the planet. Radar stations from Bahrain to Kuwait track every contact. Space-based satellites maintain constant surveillance. Undersea acoustic arrays form an invisible fence. The carrier strike group relies on a sensor network that makes surprise extinct. When the Iranian submarine departed Bandar Abbas 96 hours earlier, American P-8 aircraft logged it. Sonobuoys picked up its diesel-electric propulsion. The commander thought his passive sonar and slow speed made him invisible. Wrong. The Lincoln's Combat Information Center tracked the submarine since it left port. The tactical display updated position every 3 minutes from multiple sources. Undersea sensors, P-8 aircraft, and escort destroyers trailing acoustic arrays. 0347 hours and 8 seconds. Detection. The USS Stockdale, 15 nautical miles ahead of the carrier, registered the torpedo launch instantly. Bow-mounted sonar detected high-speed propeller cavitation and hydrogen peroxide propulsion. Torpedo in the water. Bearing 042. Range 8,000 yards. The Aegis combat system processed the threat faster than human nervous systems could register alarm. Bearing 042. Speed 45 knots. Time to impact 11 minutes, 43 seconds. Threat classification. Type 53 Wakecombing torpedo, Soviet-era design. Countermeasure solutions calculated across multiple vectors. The entire defensive sequence activated before the torpedo traveled its first 500 meters. This is what 4 decades of anti-submarine warfare evolution looks like. Not louder sonar, not bigger ships, faster decisions, better information. the ability to see threats before they become critical and counter them with precision that leaves no room for chance. Inside the Lincoln's Combat Information Center, the tactical action officer gave the first order. Launch countermeasures. Signal Stockdale weapons free. Flight deck prepare Romeo Hawk for immediate launch. The Lincoln's response operated on multiple layers. First layer, acoustic countermeasures. The carrier launched acoustic decoys from pneumatic tubes along her hull, generating false acoustic signatures that mimicked a carrier's propeller wash. To the wake-homing torpedo's guidance system, the ocean suddenly contained multiple potential targets. Stockdale turned toward the torpedo and accelerated. From the vertical launch system, an ASROC anti-submarine rocket erupted. The rocket arced through darkness, motor burning 8 seconds before the warhead plunged into the ocean, 3 miles ahead. The ASROC warhead, a Mark 54 torpedo, entered the water and went active. Target acquired in 4 seconds. The Mark 54 travels at 50 knots, faster than the Iranian weapon. Its guidance computer adjusts course 40 times per second. The 2 torpedoes closed at 95 knots. The Iranian Type 53 never deviated. The Mark 54 adjusted twice. Impact at 0349 hours, 2 minutes 11 seconds after launch. The Mark 54's warhead detonated 10 feet from the Type 53's guidance section. The explosion shredded control surfaces and cracked the pressure hull. The weapon lost propulsion and tumbled into the depths. No explosion, no impact, just defunct hardware settling onto the seafloor. But the American response was just beginning. You don't just stop the torpedo, you eliminate the launch platform. The submarine commander faced a choice: stay deep and quiet or run. He chose to run. Big mistake. The MH-60R Seahawk launched 90 seconds after detection. Combat loadout: 2 Mark 54 torpedoes, 25 Sonobuoys magnetic anomaly detector. At 0352 hours, the magnetic anomaly detector registered a hit. The steel hull created a distortion sensors could detect. 4 sonobuoys dropped in a diamond pattern. The passive sonar buoys heard everything. The Iranian submarine was running fast, diesel engines pushing emergency power, making noise that echoed for miles. The submarine commander had abandoned stealth for speed, trying to reach deeper water. Too late. 0354 hours. The MH-60R pilot gave the order. Dropping weapon. The first Mark 54 entered the water from 50 feet. The torpedo's computer already had the target solution, uploaded via data link from the helicopter. The weapon went active immediately. The Iranian submarine heard the torpedo's sonar and began evasive maneuvers. The submarine turned hard to port, dove toward the seabed, ejected noisemakers and decoys. Standard procedure. It would have worked against a torpedo from the 1980s. The Mark 54 adjusted its search pattern, filtered out the decoys, and reacquired the target. The torpedo struck the submarine at 0356 hours, midships below the conning tower. The 44-kilogram warhead detonated against the pressure hull. The explosion cracked the hull. Water flooded into the submarine at hundreds of gallons per second. Emergency alarms screamed through the vessel. The crew fought to save their boat. But physics doesn't negotiate. A submarine with a breached pressure hull at 300 feet depth is already dead. The submarine surfaced at 0401 hours, wallowing in the swells, dead in the water. The crew evacuated onto the deck, hands raised, signaling surrender. The Iranian Naval Command's gamble had lasted 14 minutes from torpedo launch to submarine defeated. But the United States Navy doesn't let attacks go unanswered. The tactical response eliminated the immediate threat. The strategic response would ensure it never happened again. Strike package authorized. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets from VFA-25 launched from the Lincoln's deck via electromagnetic catapults. Combat loadout: 4 AGM-88E ARGM missiles each. 2 AM-120D AMRAAMs for self-defense. 2 AM-9X Sidewinders on the rails. The strike package climbed to 25,000 feet and turned toward the Iranian coast at Mach 1.3. Flight time: 9 minutes. Simultaneously, the USS Stockdale and USS Dewey prepared Tomahawk cruise missiles, land attack configuration. 4 missiles total, targeting the submarine base at Bandar Abbas, the submarine pens, the command bunker, and the torpedo reload facility. 0415 hours. The Hornets reached their launch point 70 nautical miles from the Iranian coast. The AGM-88E, advanced anti-radiation guided missiles, dropped from their pylons and ignited. These weapons don't just home on radar emissions. They remember where radars were, even after they shut down. The Iranian coastal radar network tried to go dark, too late. The missile's inertial navigation guided them to the last known positions. Impact occurred at Mach 2. The 150-pound warheads detonated inside the radar complexes. Antennas collapsed. Control buildings erupted in secondary explosions. The Iranian radar operators had evacuated minutes earlier. Standard doctrine when facing American air power. 0418 hours. The Tomahawks arrived. 4 BGM-109 cruise missiles approached their targets at 550 miles per hour, flying at 100 feet altitude, following terrain contours with GPS precision measured in meters. The first 2 Tomahawks struck the submarine pens at Bandar Abbas. The reinforced concrete bunkers weren't designed for 1,000-pound warheads delivering pinpoint strikes. The explosions collapsed the roof structures, buried the pier facilities under tons of rubble, and rendered the base inoperative. The submarine that launched the torpedo would never return. The 3rd Tomahawk hit the command bunker. The 4th struck the torpedo reload facility, where Type 53 weapons sat in storage. Secondary explosions scattered debris across 300 meters. Each Tomahawk carried not just explosive force, but a strategic message. Attack our ships. We take away your ability to do it again. Mission complete. The strike package returned to the Lincoln. All aircraft recovered safely. All ordnance expended. 0 losses. The carrier resumed its patrol. Course unchanged. Speed unchanged. The cost analysis wrote itself. Iran expended 1 Type 53 torpedo, estimated cost $350,000. They revealed their submarine's operating area and acoustic signature. In exchange, they lost 1 submarine, 1 crew taken prisoner, and 1 naval base rendered inoperative. America expended 1 Mark 54 torpedo, $350,000, 4 Tomahawk missiles, $7.2 million, 4 ARGM missiles, $3.2 million, plus operational costs. Total, roughly $11 million. Return on investment: complete elimination of Iranian submarine threat in that sector without risking a single American sailor. But the real cost wasn't financial. It was strategic. Iran wanted to demonstrate strength, to show their domestic audience that Iran could challenge American naval power. What they demonstrated was that challenging a carrier strike group with Soviet-era equipment is like challenging a chess grandmaster while announcing your moves 3 rounds in advance. Technically possible, strategically pointless, tactically suicidal, the Strait of Hormuz returned to its tense calm. No further Iranian submarine activity. No escalation beyond the surgical retaliation. The Lincoln sailed south through the strait that afternoon. Her air wing conducted scheduled training missions. Her crew served dinner at normal hours. Business as usual for a strike group that handles existential threats before breakfast. The Iranian submarine crew, pulled from the water by American sailors, were treated according to international law. Medical attention, food, water, and repatriation through diplomatic channels. The submarine itself, too damaged to be salvaged, was left to sink in 600 feet of water, a monument to the price of miscalculation. Within 48 hours, Iranian state media released statements claiming a successful operation that forced the American carrier to withdraw. The Lincoln's navigation logs told a different story. 0 course deviations. 0 speed changes. 0 concern. Some lessons are taught with words, some with sanctions. This one was taught with Mark 54 torpedoes, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and the systematic dismantling of a submarine base. For Iran's naval command, the message arrived loud and clear. Fire at American carriers, lose your submarines and your ports. This is what modern naval warfare looks like. Not battleship duels at close range, not dramatic last stands, just systematic, overwhelming technological superiority applied with surgical precision. The United States Navy doesn't fight fair. It fights to win. And in the Strait of Hormuz that morning, winning meant an Iranian submarine on the bottom, a naval base in ruins, and an American carrier continuing its patrol as if nothing had happened. Because to the USS Abraham Lincoln and her crew, this wasn't a crisis. This wasn't even noteworthy. This was just another Tuesday in the world's most contested waters, where American naval power isn't demonstrated with shows of force. It's demonstrated by making threats disappear before they ever become dangerous. The Iranian submarine learned this lesson the hard way. The next submarine commander thinking about taking a shot at an American carrier won't need to. He already knows how it ends. If you enjoyed this deep dive into modern naval operations, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay sharp.